I mean, in a lot of spiritual talk and stuff, like Earth has its own heartbeat, and that heartbeat's called the Schumann resonance. So part of that is these energy lines, which we call, some of these things we call ley lines, we call spirit lines. I mean, they're basically these invisible paths of energy that connect sacred sites and these different megaliths and ancient monuments around the world, and they form sort of an energy grid, if you will. Because you've seen a picture of the globe with all these little connections all over it, right? That's kind of the idea. And those lines that connect each node. So a node would be like Stonehenge or Washington, D.C. And those are nodes. We have nodes.
So that's the intersection. That would be like the intersection.
Yeah, it would be like an intersection where energy kind of flows into. And they call them X points as well.
Whatever. I think that's at least my understanding of why it's done that way. Because there's so many different beliefs, man, but I think a lot of people have the same belief that there is a good, some sort of good and bad force in the universe. I think most people believe that, and I mean, maybe there's different ways that is the case, but the what I've been told, the thought is, or the theory is, that they have to sort of show us what they're doing because of karma, or whatever the belief system is, which makes sense. I mean, it makes sense. So
yeah, it's called like karmic retribution. Or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. They had to kind of show the people what they're doing, because if not, the God or the benevolent force of the universe will sort of not allow it to happen. I think that's the explanation of like subliminal messaging and all this kind of stuff. Which that's a crazy rabbit hole, man. Like if you look at that, you look at the stuff that we watched as kids, like the cartoons and stuff, the messaging that was in there. Right. I mean, it's crazy. Like those cartoons from the 90s. I saw something from the Rugrats the other day, which was it's been years since I've seen that show, but I remember watching that show as a kid. You know what I mean? And you watch these shows, like you see little clips of them or whatever as an adult, and you're like, oh, I understand that now. And it's crazy. That's a kid's show,
It is crazy, man. Because really, like I said, it is you have to accept it into your mind, because they'll show it on TV. And then you consent to it. You open it. You open your heart and your energy and your mind, and you let it in. And then once you do that, then we're these bioelectric beings. We're these balls of magnetic energy, electromagnetic energy, that are just kind of walking around the universe. Yeah. And so we're receivers, but we're also transmitters. And so when we transmit something from our mind, when we transmit this energy from our mind, whether it be good or bad, only we can manifest things into reality. We are human. We are hue means color beings, like colors, right? And then man means manifestation. So we are color manifestations. We're light beings, essentially. And then I have this whole theory on, if you look at like I got a prism right here, of a little prism. And when I was in sixth grade, I'm 42 now, but when I was in the sixth grade, I did this little experiment on prisms, like a science project, and I won at the county fair for it. So I've been talking about this since I was a kid. But basically, when white light hits a prism, it refracts into the colors, and that's what we are. We're living in this electromagnetic spectrum. We're in the 0.0035% of the visible light in the electromagnetic spectrum. We are in this little pocket of color. And so all around us is this 99.665% or whatever it is of spirituality around us. There's this whole everything around us is like, so I always talk about how we're like the aliens, because we exist in this little pocket of light and energy. And then everything else is like it really hates us. Excuse me. They really hate us because they want to get in here, because we're in God's light. We're created in his image, and we are the creators. We are creators just like him. We're not the creator, but we're creators just like him. And if you think about it, we're the ones who can create babies, and we can create art and all this awesome stuff that I got in my office, baseballs and lights and all this other stuff. So we are creators, and because we're created in his image. So when they put this stuff out in the news or on TV or whatever, we're sending out the signals from our minds, and we're materializing. We're bringing things into matter. That's what matter is, right? is this materialization of etheric energy. And so, when Jesus was on earth, he was talking about, don't worry about the material, focused on the ethereal, essentially was what he was saying. Like he's like, give your money to Caesar and all this stuff. Don't worry about all that stuff, because the etheric energy is what you really need to focus on. That's what God's light is. That's what God's energy is. That's what the Holy Spirit is that runs through us all. So I know I'm kind of going all over the place here a little bit, but
No, you're good. You're good.
But truly, man, it's like we are the ones who can create. We're the ones who can manifest because we are human. We're the ones who can manifest anything into reality. And so when they put it in the news, it's going to come into reality. I mean, it's weird how it works, because if you think about it, you're talking about good and bad, light and dark, those kind of forces. Well, what is that movie? That's Star Wars. That's the story as old as time. That's every ancient civilization has this story of, battle between light and darkness. And so, but anyways, when they put that stuff out there, think about like the Simpsons, how they're always predicting the future and all that stuff. I mean, that's what that is. What's happening is they're putting it out there, then we're buying into it, and then we're creating that reality. So we have to be very, very careful of our energy, because it's incredibly powerful. That's why when you start going towards a goal in life, maybe in business or whatever it is you're doing. I was just talking with my son about this with baseball. Anything you do in this world, if you put energy towards something, you're going to get big results from it. Where attention goes, energy flows.
Right.
And so when you put a lot of effort into something, and if you have a vision in your mind of what you want, and then you move towards that goal, it's like this energy flows around us like a wake of electromagnetic energy, and we're going to vibrate at a certain frequency. And if we vibrate at a positive frequency, positive things are going to attract to us like a magnet. If we vibrate at a negative frequency, if we're saying things like it'll never happen or whatever the case is, then again, when you think that, we have this 6-foot magnetic field around us, right? And so when you think something negative or think something positive, those vibrations come off of our body and they get trapped into this little magnetic ball of energy that floats around with us all over the place. I mean, we carry it all throughout life. So when you have that negative energy floating around you, you're going to attract negative stuff. And it's really amazing. I mean, I know there's, people don't like to hear us talk about manifesting and things like that, and how you can, the book, The Secret, how you can just think something into existence. Well, I mean, it's true, actually.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. And I'm telling you, that's why you've heard stories of like, don't speak it into existence, and, knock on wood and all this other stuff, is because when you knock on wood, you're transferring that energy back to like the wood. You're trying to transfer it out of your body. So,
so like what I love about what you're saying, man, is people are definitely going to hear this and like think it's a little crazy when like the light, like us being light beings and stuff like that. But there's a lot of talk of like health on this podcast, and things like light do affect us as biological beings. Like sunlight affects how we operate. There's a big talk these days about blue light coming from phones. I mean, sunlight emits blue light, but like coming from lights, bright lights and stuff. Red light therapy is something that penetrates the skin and goes deeper into your skin. It helps stimulate, energy production in cells and stuff like that. And so like we are, I don't want to say manipulated. I guess we could be, but we are affected by light. And so it's crazy that like, you think about a plant lives off of sunlight and water, but we are affected by sunlight too. It's literally what sets our circadian biology. And so it's not too far out there to say or to think that we are light beings, because we're definitely influenced by light.
I mean, God is light. It says it in the Bible, and then He created us in His image. So what does that mean? If it says 100,000 times in the Bible that God is light, then what does that mean? And we're created in His image, then what does that mean? That means that we are created as light beings as well.
And something else too, anytime you ever see a picture of like a spirit or a soul, it's always like a silhouette of a human body, and then it's like this light source that's inside of it. You know what I mean? Like the soul is like a illuminated being basically inside the body.
Yeah, it's an energy. It's a vibration, and sometimes those vibrations don't go away. That's why you see ghosts, because it's a energy is not created nor destroyed. It's endless. It leaves our body and goes out into the ether again. And when another baby is born, that energy goes and that life force goes into that baby. So yeah, of course, man. I mean, we are light beings. It's not woo to say that. To me, it's like you have to look at the Bible and read stuff like that. Or I mean, you don't even really have to look at the Bible. You just know. I mean, just go outside and you see how the sun affects you.
Yeah.
I mean, being in here, you were just talking about blue light and all this other stuff, right? I mean, I have lights all around me right now. I have a camera in front of me. I have a TV screen. I have this magnetic floating levitation device behind me that floats a baseball card. And I got a TV behind me and I got a light behind me. I have this little tri-field meter, that reads electromagnetic energy. And dude, if you walk around this office with it, it's going to go crazy. Now think about that. Like, it's just like sitting inside of an electric vehicle. When you're inside this, I'm inside this little podcast studio, and all this electromagnetic frequency is pointing right at me. It has to be affecting you because everything in our body is electric. I mean, our hearts are these magnetic vortexes of energy. Our brains are these vortexes of energy as well. And so anything that's electromagnetic is going to disrupt the flow of the natural electromagnetic energy in our body. And so all you got to do is buy a tri-field meter and you'll see what I'm talking about. I mean, my kid will play the Xbox like right up on, he'll have his face right beside the screen. And I walked in there with the tri-field meter one day and I put it up and I showed him how crazy it was going, excuse me. And he was really shocked.
Yeah.
And so, that's where these stories of like, don't put your phone next to your ear, it's going to cause cancer and all this stuff. That's where that stuff came from. That wasn't just like a made up thing. They just stopped talking about it a long time ago because they wanted to sell more cell phones and stuff like that. So,
well, they also know there's not much you can do about it. I mean, cell phones are so integrated, you know what I mean? And I had that same sort of, I guess, paranoia about like Bluetooth and stuff, which I'm weird, man. So I don't put like I said this on the podcast before, I won't put my phone in my gym bag if I have like a couple bottles of water or something there. I won't put it because I feel like that water absorbs whatever that, frequency is. And it sounds crazy, but you can't tell me this cell phone has radio tower communication and it has satellite or whatever it is that has the data, the internet. You can't tell me all those things come to this phone and there's not a field around this thing that emits this energy. And especially something like water. Like water, I feel like you've heard the experiments where they have the water and they'll play like positive music and negative music to it. And like they put it into a plant and the plant reacts differently. I've heard of people even taking a cup of water and meditating or praying over the water and then drinking the water. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I just feel like water is so essential to life. There's no way. Even let's just go off on a tangent right here and just hypothetically say that there is no such thing as energy and souls don't exist. Okay, whatever. A cell phone is real. We can see that. We can see it has energy that's coming to it. And you can't tell me that thing's not putting that energy out. And if I have a bottle of water or a drink next to it, that's going to affect that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, everything. I mean, water is a life force. It is it's makes up 70% of our body. I just read a book by a guy named Masaru Emoto called The Hidden Messages in Water. And he's the guy you're referring to actually about these experiments where you say positive things to water and then you freeze it. And then you take pictures of it and it's going to show these different fractals. So if you say negative things to it, if you say you're ugly, you're stupid or whatever, and then you freeze the water, they're putting it in a petri dish and then they freeze the water and then they bring it out and they take pictures of it. It reflects what the vibration that you're saying.
That's so crazy, man. That's so crazy.
Well, he talks about in the book how a bunch of people went to this pond, this disgusting pond that was filled with all this bacteria and stuff. And they did samples. He did samples of these, scooped some samples. And then they had a bunch of people come to the pond and they prayed over the pond. And then the water was like, you could see straight to the bottom. And so like the vibrations in our voices and the combination of our intent and everything behind it will change the makeup. That's why we pray over food, dude. That's where that comes from. I mean, that's
man, I've never thought about that. Like praying over food. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. You're praying that you clean out that, we always say stuff like, you're from the South, you hear stuff like, thank you, Lord, for this food I'm about to receive, and please help it to give nourishment to my body and things like
Yeah.
that, right? So like when you say stuff like that, that's what that is, man. I pray, I will pray over, I coach Little League Baseball. I'll pray over the
Mm.
roster. Please make this the best decision I can make and things like that. But I'll pray over water whenever I put it in a pot before I cook some macaroni and cheese for my kids, because I want to make sure that that water that they're getting is the best possible water that they can get. Now, the best possible water you can get, according to Masaru Emoto, is natural spring water,
Mm.
because when it comes from the sky, it's great, but when it gets into the ground and it kind of soaks up these minerals and it comes back out in the form of through natural spring water, that he said that that's the clearest and cleanest, that the best vibrations that you can create. I mean, without even saying anything to it.
Yep.
And he showed some stuff like when he said certain words, like Satan, for example. When he said the word Satan, it created this dark black hole in the middle of the fractal. And so you can also show pictures to water. You can show a picture of anything. Like he played music, for example, to some water. It was a lullaby, and the water created a fractal that looked like a baby. So like water is very conscious. Yeah.
That's crazy, man. But you know something too. Like I don't know, because I think you mentioned water being a life force, and I think that's a really good way to phrase it. But think about this. All right, so there's this whole thing about fluoride in the water, like fluoride in the public water system. Okay, and you mentioned Satan. How evil or satanic would it be to take something that is essential as water, a life force, and contaminate it with something like fluoride or some other kind of poison to essentially poison the pot? Like that is
Chlorine.
that's evil to me. You know what I mean? Like something that should be almost like consuming water should be. It's a biological thing, but it's almost like a spiritual thing to consume that water, and now it's tainted with fluoride. That's just like evil, I feel like.
Yeah, and I posted a video on my Instagram about, like, I went out to this place near us in South Carolina called Blenheim, South Carolina. They have a little natural spring, and when you go there, man, it's like there's trash everywhere. There's it's just disgusting looking, and it's coming out of a PVC pipe. This is natural. This is a natural spring. Yeah, so this is
coming out of a pipe,
spring coming out of a little PVC pipe and surrounded by trash, and so that I was going to get some water from there, but then I was expecting it to be like all these boulders and all this stuff, and I was going to be able to, take my jug and, kind of not meditate or anything like, but kind of like pray and like get the water and have like a spiritual experience. But then when I got there, I was like shocked, because a lot of cultures throughout history, I mean, water is a very powerful thing, and they've known that for thousands and thousands of years. Most cultures build temples around natural springs, and here we are in South Carolina, and there's just trash everywhere. There's not a temple around it. What I mean by temple, some sort of just a structure that, that's just like, oh, this is a sacred site. Like, they need to have police guarding it all the time. That's how sacred these places should be, because that's the cleanest water we can possibly get. But yet we're just totally ignoring it, and we're getting tap water that's been has fluoride in it and chlorine and all these other chemicals. And just think about that. Just the fact that stuff is in our water, and it's so Masaru Emoto did that. He would scoop water that was chlorinated, tap water and stuff. He's got pictures in this book. You should really take a look at it if you get a chance. But he's got pictures of that where he scooped the tap water, just said things to it, and froze it and then took pictures of it, and it would create these distorted fractals as if it was trying to create this beautiful fractal, but it couldn't. But then he would take the spring water, and the spring water would just create these natural, beautiful, like multi-layered fractals. Excuse me, fractals. So, there's a big difference in water, and we have to I mean, yeah, whoever controls the water, man, they're doing a number on this. It is the most pure form of evil, in my opinion, because you're right. Like that, what are we, 70% water? I mean, it's in our body. We have to drink it. We have to drink it. I'm drinking Red Bull. This is poison, right? But this says natural purified drinking water. What does that even mean? Purified,
Yeah, pure. So
pure.
it's crazy. You were, I'm a big fan of Deer Park because Deer Park is spring water.
Mm-hmm.
And this says, so people don't know this in our area. If you buy Deer Park, it usually comes from either South Carolina or Florida. That's the two sources you're going to see. This says Swift Springs, Chesterfield County is where this was sourced. I'm not really sure where that is, but I mean, it's supposed to be spring water, man. But, and I've had this conversation too. It's in a plastic bottle. You know
Yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
like
So
polyethylene or whatever,
yeah,
plastic bottles. Yeah, like
yeah. So I mean, it's only going to be so much, like, because plastic is a whole nother thing, man.
yeah,
And it's literally everywhere. Like plastic is everywhere. The even if you try to filter out all of the plastic, all the chemicals, if you go to the store, it's packaged in plastic. A lot of this
yeah.
stuff you buy at the store, the grocery store, it's in styrofoam. That can't be healthy because styrofoam doesn't really break down like that. I mean, I think it would be like you would really like drive yourself crazy if you tried to eliminate all these things. Which I guess is why people say you have to kind of pick and choose your battles as far as what you want to like filter out. But I don't know, something I think like water is really important. I think it's really important to have some sort of filtration system either on your house or drink bottled water. But like I said, at a certain point you'll drive yourself crazy, man.
I mean, if you don't have any choice, the best thing to do is pray over your water, like I said. But when you think about, man, with food, when you go to a grocery store, like think about how many people are going to touch your vegetables, how much chemicals were sprayed on your vegetables before they were pulled out of the ground. Then
Yep.
the people who are pulling it out and putting it on trucks or whatever they got to do with it, and then they bring it to the grocery stores and stuff, and then everybody's touching it at the grocery store. What's happening is there's a transfer of energy every time somebody touches that. So if you are like if you're in a negative state of mind or a negative vibration and you pick up an apple, well, your vibration has been transferred into that apple. So think about how many people have done that. So we don't have this relationship with food anymore that should be like there's so many people there's a process that all of our food goes through before it even gets to us. It's
Right.
chemical, it's vibration, all this other stuff that just negatives it or puts this negative energy around it. And like I said, that's why you got to pray it off, and that's why you got to pray for it to please pray to God to please rid these things of parasites. And the parasites, in my opinion, aren't just like these little critters; they're actual vibrations, and that's a whole nother thing, man. I think that even a few years ago, there was a lot of people worried about health and stuff like that. I think all of that was a manifestation of energy. I just think that was energy that people were affected with. It was an energy. It was a mind virus that people were infected with. I don't think it was an actual bug in your body. So yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that's actually interesting because I've heard that before, and then they gave us a solution to that problem, which was like a vaccine, which was like who, dude. There's been you can't even really go fully down the rabbit hole of what the vaccine entailed and like all the problems it came with it.
Yeah.
But I've heard theories about like it's there for like you talking about electromagnetic. It's there to manipulate our cells. It's there to alter us forever. And you have to think, man, like what else happened along human history that was like this that we don't know about that altered us forever? Like, I don't know what percentage of the population took the vaccine, but like, let's just say it was 50%. So like 50% of people have this thing. Is that something that's going to be passed on to the next generation if they can even have a next generation? Because that's been a lot of concern for a lot of people. Like they can't have children now because of something that happened. But it's like how many things have happened along the course of history that have altered our DNA that we're not aware about? You know what I mean? Like, because what we think is, oh, well, back, in 1800s, 1700s, 1500s, they didn't have modern medicine like we do now. But I mean, I don't know if I'd be so sure about that, man. I don't know if I would be so sure about everything you read in a history book being accurate.
Well, that's your DNA talking to you right now. That's thousands and thousands and thousands of years of your family's history running through your body right now, telling you something's off. Something's wrong. I don't believe this or I don't believe that. That's what that's why a lot of people woke up. I mean, my show is called the Awaken podcast for that reason, is because everybody woke up. Everybody was like, oh, and what that meant was that you're waking up the cells in your body to remembering who you are. And
dude,
again,
that just gave me chills. That just gave me chills. I'm not gonna lie. That's crazy.
It's like but that's what happened, man. we're just remembering. We're remembering who we are. And now you can't, it's getting harder and harder to get things past us because we're like, oh, I see the game here. I see what you guys are doing. You know, I'm hip to what's going on.
Well, see,
And
that makes
once you
me,
turn everything off, dude, like your life will just get better. You have to turn the TV off. You have to just ignore politics. And I know it's hard to do because I still, you know, I still have one foot in that door, kind of like, okay, we need to make sure that we're on the right track in the United States and stuff like that.
yeah,
But for the most part, dude, I just totally ignore it because I don't give them my authority. I give nobody
right.
my authority except my, you know, I give my consent to God, and that's it. And
Yeah.
I'm have full control over my body and my energy and my being. I don't give it. I don't give my energy to anybody that's like. It's hard to do, believe me, but I still
Hmm.
try to do it to my fullest. You know, when somebody runs over your foot or it doesn't open the door for you, it's really, you know, easy to flip that switch to negative energy and start kind of yelling at people. But the hardest thing to do is to ignore it and just like, it's all good. It doesn't matter. When we
Yeah.
say it doesn't matter, it literally means it doesn't materialize. It doesn't matter. Like,
That's so powerful, man. I think one thing that worries me about this is if we are in fact waking up and we're becoming more conscious of this, which I think is true. I think the tactics to use to keep us maybe asleep or, you know, enslaved are just going to get stronger and stronger the more we wake up. I think that's kind of what worries me. Um, and we were talking before we started rolling about, you know, sort of this battle of good and evil. Like people have different belief systems. And some people believe there is a God, some people believe don't. I believe there's a God. Some people believe in science and biology. Like whatever it is that you believe, there is some force, it seems like right now in this universe that is opposing another force. You know, it's either God versus Satan or good versus evil, or some people look at it consciously, ascension versus descension. Some people look at it like politically, left versus right. Like there seems to be this battle that's going on. And it doesn't matter where you fall on your belief system on that spectrum, wherever you're at, there's a battle of some sort. You know what I mean? Like even with health, it's like the old health system versus the new health system. We have these new things coming in, and so there's like this. It's I want to say it's an evolution, and I want to say like we are about to ascend consciously, maybe to the next level, which is even a conversation in itself. But it's like I don't think there's any denying there's a war going on right now.
no, I think so. I mean, it's again, it's actually, um, like I said before, it's that 99% of the spiritual world around us that hates us because we are in this little perfect pocket of energy and light that we can experience things, we can materialize things in, you know, into matter. Like I said, we are living in this material world. We're in the matter. Okay. So like there's an antimatter, and that antimatter is the negative force that we're dealing with. And so, um, I had a guy named Paul Stobbs on my show, and he brought up a good point, and I keep mentioning it every time I have this conversation, because he was like, what if the rainbow, um, you know, the covenant that God made after the flood, not to flood the earth again, that maybe he said that rainbow is us, and he put us in this little rainbow of energy to protect us from all this negative stuff in the world. And I thought that was a pretty good, I mean, it doesn't say that exactly in the Bible, but I thought that was a pretty good way of looking at it. We're in
Mm-hmm.
this like little plasma ball of energy, of light and energy, that if you think about it, man, think about the conditions that have to happen for us to exist in this, on this earth. I mean, it's like
Right.
it's pretty perfect. Our bodies are like perfectly, you know, in sync and tuned, and everything in the world has its place and all this other stuff. And how perfect that is, like that seems improbable. And
Yeah.
if you know, according to these scientists, they've looked out into the cosmos with their scopes and all that stuff, and you know, they don't see any signs of life anywhere. So if you think about it, dude, like we're very special, we're very unique, and there's these
Mm-hmm.
things that are trying to get that energy. And if you look at the electromagnetic spectrum, which is it has the range of from microwaves and radio waves, and infrared waves, all the way to the visible light, all the way to ultraviolet rays,
Mm-hmm.
X rays, and gamma rays. And so we're in that middle. We're in that perfect. Everything else is like super cold. because if it's vibrating on a frequency that we can't experience, if it's a low vibration, then it's going to be cold, freezing cold, because it's a long, slow vibration, which means it's less heat. So that's like a form of hell, right? Because it's super cold. Then you get the super high vibrating, super fast. And you think about when aliens come into existence, you always smell radiation. There's all these other things that come along with that. But I don't know if you want to take it down that rabbit hole or not. But when the aliens come into our existence, so we're basically dealing with two forces. They're all the same force, but like there's a high vibrating, too hot energy that's coming into our reality, and there's a too cold, which is the dark, shadowy, disembodied entities that exist in that realm. And everything around us, like I said, is trying to get in our world. They're creating, these aliens are creating hybrid beings. And if you think about when you drink alcohol, man, they're called spirits for a reason. You're letting these spirits come into your body, right? Because fear vibrates at a super low vibration. Fear, when a tiger growls, it's like a less than 18 hertz vibration. And that's a subliminal, or like not a subliminal, it's a what do you call it?
Like
subacoustic. No, it's like a subacoustic sound, subsonic hearing. That's what it is. Okay. And so basically it's a fear that we can't hear. And so when people keep us in, when these entities keep us in a state of vibration of fear and hate and all this stuff, that's when you're going to see people addicted to alcohol and drugs and stuff like that, because that fear keeps us on the lower vibration of the electromagnetic scale, right? We're on that low, super slow vibration. We're getting close to that to where the radio waves. I mean, you were talking about how when you make phone calls and text messages, where do they go? Where does this go? When we make a phone call, where does it go? Well, it leaves our reality and it travels through this ether where these things exist. The radio waves travel through. That's why we can't see them. They're too long and too cold for us to see them. So they travel through there. They travel from one place through the ether to all the way to you, to your house, to your podcast studio right now. And so that's why these things can manipulate our electric. That's why when we go to take a video of a UFO or something, it's always blurry and stuff like that. Well, they control that energy. They control that electricity that's all around us. They're going through the walls right now. They're coming out of the lights and stuff in here, man. I mean, we're kind of letting these things, especially with like Wi-Fi, we're letting into our house. Like we're letting these things just traverse our house, like doing pretty much whatever they want. And so they're watching us all the time, man. And they want us in a state of fear so they can attach their disembodied entity's self onto us. And that's all that is, man. So when you live in a higher vibration, when you live in this vibration of gratitude and love, you are vibrating at a much faster rate, and they can't even come close to you. They can't attach themselves to you. So it's a very important thing to keep our vibrations at a high love and gratitude. And gratitude actually seems to be a higher vibration than love, and love is a pretty powerful one. But
that's actually a really good explanation of that. I've never heard that explained that way. I've heard that being in a higher vibration is it sort of repels whatever this force is, this evil force. The way you just laid it out was really good, because it sounds like when most people say that, it sounds like it's more of a positive mindset type thing. You know what I mean? But like you just laid it out, I think which is pretty.
No, I think it's a physical, literal thing, like a physical vibration. It's not just a mindset. It is a mindset, but it's not just. It is literally a place that you have to be. Dude, I mean, I was talking about, I just built this beautiful house in this beautiful neighborhood right after COVID and all that stuff. And my neighbor is a retired judge, and I got about 4 acres and she's got about 4 acres, but they're right beside each other. And when we first moved in here, I was standing in between yards talking to her. And I grew up in a trailer. I grew up very poor, going to, poor schools and all this other stuff. Yep. So whenever I was standing there talking to her, I was just like, I'm just so happy to be here. This is amazing. I'm living in a beautiful neighborhood, and got a beautiful house and a beautiful wife. I was like, I don't even know how I got here. This is incredible. And I said, I get to walk outside every day, and I see deer in my backyard all the time. And as I said, I waved my arm and I said, I got deer coming in the backyard, and dude, broad daylight. And, as a South Carolinian, you don't see deer during the day, but a deer walked out. The moment I said I get to see deer in my backyard, it was as if God was like, thank you for the gratitude that you're given. You know what I mean? He acknowledged the fact that I was being grateful for everything I had. And he showed me that sign. That's sort of how I took it. So I think gratitude is like, if you look at, we were just talking about water. If you look at water, if you compare water to love and gratitude, love is the oxygen part and gratitude is the 2 parts hydrogen. So it's like the double the amount of, so you really need to have double the amount of gratitude more than love. But love is very important, obviously, but the gratitude part is incredibly important. When you have things and you're just like, why do I have this? I do that with my podcast. There's success. I have success with my podcast. And I'm like, some people will go, yeah, I'm the man. I got this many thousand followers or whatever, or they think that they're better than everybody. I don't. I still can't believe people even listen to my show. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just
and that's going to lead me into something that I wanted to say. You were talking about love and gratitude. I think something to throw in there, which is really also magnetic and a powerful energy, is authenticity. I think authenticity is very attractive. I mean, it's attractive to people when you're talking to people, they're authentic, but also too, I think it's attractive to the like manifesting and stuff, authenticity, because it's like, and I mean, after having this conversation with you, I guess it seems like it's that way, because if you are in an authentic energy and something's trying to, a negative energy is trying to manipulate you, it can't, because you're in authenticity. You know who you are, who you're supposed to be or whatever. And so you can't be, manipulated one way or the other. That's at least the way it sounds.
Yeah, you're putting off that, like, you're exuding the real vibration from you. And
right.
if we can get to a point where we're, being our true selves, dude. My mom and I have had this conversation my whole life because she experiences it too. And I think my daughter probably experiences it too. We exude this, this sounds like I'm bragging. I don't mean it to sound like, I promise I'm not, but, we have this way about us that people don't like us, and because I think it's because people don't know how to be themselves.
Yep. That's exactly what it is.
They can't be themselves. They can't be their authentic selves. And we're out there having fun and enjoying life. I mean, dude, I was just telling my son last night, I'm like, there are people who go to work every day and they're miserable. They hate life. It's like a continuous cycle of waking up, getting breakfast, going to work, coming home, doing their routine. I said, and I don't live my life like that, because we are not these linear beings. We're not designed to just continue going on this. Our nature is non-linearity. It's chaotic. That means that every single moment of every day, a new outcome can happen. Every single moment, every single second of the day, a new outcome, a new version of you can be created. And I was trying to explain that to him. I mean, I've done stuff that would blow people's minds. I don't talk a lot about some of the stuff because I just don't want there to be some kind of like, oh, but I used to be in the military. I used to work for an Army general. Got to travel the world. I've eaten lunch with kings, literally. I've been mountain biking with presidents. I've been on the show Stranger Things. I mean, everything I do in my life, dude, I'm just like, yeah, let's go for it. I don't have any reservations. And so what I'm trying to say is, when you're living in that vibration of you being yourself all the time, like, I don't change who I am, dude. I'm the exact same person. I'm going to talk to baseball coaches exactly like I'm talking to you now. I was talking when I worked for the general. I never was like, sir, yes, sir, and doing all these weird things and all this stuff. And I was just talking to him just the same way I'm talking to you. And I've lived my life like that. And I just think people they don't know how to be that. They don't know how to do that.
Yep.
And, you can't explain it to people. You can't, it's a lonely life, because when you're doing things and enjoying life, again, people will hate you for that. They hated Christ for doing similar things. He was just living his life and, exuding this love and authenticity and gratitude and this high vibration. And people around him didn't understand that. And so, and again, I'm not comparing myself to Christ. I promise you I'm not, y'all. But what I'm saying is, like, I get it. It's a lonely place to be, man, when you are living in that mindset. It really is a lonely place. It's, You can't be knocked off your, nothing that people say to me, dude, will affect me to the point where I'm like, it throws me off of that path. Every day I live my life, I wake up and it's a new day. It's like something new. It's exciting. I'm doing your show this morning. This is amazing, right? It's like, a couple of weeks I'm going to go to a comedy event in Florida and got a lot of big shows coming up, that kind of stuff, man. And so like, I'm just going with the flow of life. And when you let go and let God, like anything is possible, dude. I'm telling you, it's like you let God use you as a vessel for his will and the doors will open up for you in a major, major way. And again, people will hate you for it, man, because they're miserable. They will listen to this podcast and they will make miserable comments in the comment section and stuff like that. It's like, hopefully they don't. Hopefully they stay in a positive mindset. But it's once you get there, man, it's like you kind of rising up. I always use this analogy of like a grandfather clock. When you have these heavy swings back and forth, that's what most people are living in. But when you get to the top of that pendulum, you're staying still, right? And that's the higher vibration that I'm talking about. It's like you can kind of see, you're on the outside looking in. You're watching the cat fight between Musk and Trump right now, right? And you're kind of looking at it like, oh, that's weird, that's silly, you know what I mean? And you're just kind of moving on with life. You don't jump into you remember the cartoon where the cloud of dust, and every now and then you see an arm fly out and stuff like that. That's what that looks like. You're just sitting there watching it like, okay, this is a crazy little cloud of dust, but I'm not going to jump into that fight, because it's all that will do is throw you off your path and affect that energy like we're talking about.
I think one thing to point out, man, because you said that like when you do these things, people hate you for it. And you also mentioned earlier too about sort of, being your true self. This was way in the beginning of the podcast. And I think you said the way you phrased it was sort of have like a Captain America shield and you're just like unfazed by this stuff. I think one way people can be unfazed in those situations is just to realize these people, it's not that they hate you. They hate the fact that you're doing something that they can't do for themselves.
Yes.
If they see you taking a risk and living your best life and starting businesses or families or whatever it is, I think more people than probably even realize it want that for themselves. They want a different path for themselves, but there needs to be some sort of either risk or stepping into a different, vibrational energy, or something needs to happen for that to happen. And they can't do that for whatever reason, out of fear or anxiety or whatever it is.
Right.
And so it's not that they hate you. They hate the fact that they can't do that for themselves, and they just project that hate onto you. And I think that's a good point for people to understand, because, there's a lot of talk about personal growth and self-development on this podcast. And anytime you're going to do anything significant in your life to make a significant change, you're going to get resistance. Sometimes it comes from the people around you, unfortunately, your siblings, your spouse, whatever it is. But I think that's just something for people to be aware of.
Yeah, that resistance, dude, that resistance is that field that you have to break through. That's what that resistance you're getting from family and friends. They're trying to keep you in that magnetic energy, that magnetic ball of energy. They want you to be there with them and be miserable and live in this chaotic world. And
well, think about a family, right? Think about a family, a tribe. You know what I mean? Like all people are the same. The moment somebody steers away from that, you know what I mean? It's no longer that same tribe anymore. Talking about it over the course of human history, it's no longer the same type of people. Like imagine if you had, before we were civilized or whatever, we have tribes and we have these families. If somebody wanted to veer off and do something completely different, that person's no longer in that same tribe. You know what I mean? That's a completely different thing.
Well, if
I want to go back.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let me just say one thing about all of this. Kind of try to put a bow on this package, right? Is like, if you think about light, how a photon of light is made. If you take it down to the quantum level of how a photon of light is made, a photon is a packet of light called a quanta. And how that works is like there's an interaction between the electron and the nucleus of an atom, and it's constantly going back and forth. It's doing this, it's going back and forth. Boom, 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 boom. How a packet of light is created is if enough energy happens between the nucleus of an atom and an electron, then a photon of light shoots off. Now that's happening all the time. Boom, 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 and then a photon of light shoots off. We are, when you enlighten and when you awaken, that we are that photon of light. We are sort of, just like you said, you're in this little bubble, right? And then you shoot off. And then everybody goes, oh, he's a weirdo. I hate him. He's stupid. You're that photon of light. You have evolved into a higher version of yourself. And now when you shoot off into that little packet of light, you're going to attract all these other little lights, and you're going to create this new little energy and this new little world. And the idea is to continue never staying in one place, but always evolving into a newer version, a higher version of yourself, because you can get caught up in whatever, if you jump to the next ball and the next ball and next ball, you can always get caught up in these little whirlpools of energy that kind of try, it's never good to say, I belong to this tribe or that tribe. The idea is to be free, be these light beings, these sovereign beings that are free to move about the world and create and do whatever the heck you want to do, because that's what we're here to do,
Yeah.
So,
no, that's a really good explanation of that, man. That's a really good illustration of that. I know you got to go here in a little bit. I want to jump back to, so you mentioned about the balance of Earth, like being in the perfect space and all this. And I think math and numbers are so much more important than we give it credit for. I think, I think the way this works, and I'm not a science major or anything, I don't know if this is exactly true, but I think we have the periodic table of elements, right? And I think everything is made up of some combination of those elements. Is that how it works? I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I think everything that exists is like some combination.
Every element, there's a vibration that goes along with every element.
Huh.
That's another thing that Masaru Emoto talked about in his book, The Consciousness of Water. The Hidden Messages of Water, was that every element, there's a vibration to it. It's almost like the chords of a music, or the chords of a guitar. Every vibration has a different sound. Well, that's what we are on. That's what we exist in. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, man.
No, you're good. But like that, those elements are the basis of everything, right? Everything is made out of some combination of that. Is that right?
Yeah.
So like you mentioned H2O earlier. I don't know what H2O2 is, but it's not water. It's something very different from water. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like everything is like this exact combination of numbers of what it's supposed to be. And I don't know if you get into numbers at all, like angel numbers, like, if you're driving, you see a license plate that says 444 or whatever, I don't know if you get into that kind of stuff, but I think this does transition into something you talked about on Sam's podcast, which I'm gonna put a link to that, what you guys talked about. But the ley lines, the longitude and latitude, all those things. Is it the 33rd? Is that right?
Yeah, 33rd parallel,
So like,
which is where you and I live.
Yeah, but even 33, because you guys went over this on Sam's podcast. It even seems like 33 is something that is significant. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think Jesus died at 33. I think is there 33 or 32 levels of Freemasonry? I can't remember. I think there's maybe 32.
Well, 33 is the highest that we know of. I think that there are different vibrations that. So if 220 is a positive vibration, I don't know that it is, but let's say the number 220 hertz is a positive vibration. Only other positive vibrations that we can resonate with are the multiples of that. So 444, on and on. Unfortunately, 444 and 666 or 888 maybe is the next one, but you can only do multiples of that. So It's like multiples of 2. So like 222, 44, on and on and on. So I think that we resonate with different vibrations. Like as long as it's a multiple of that. I don't know where I'm going with this. I forgot where I was going with this, but yeah, essentially, if you kind of zoom out and you look at Earth is called Gaia, right? I mean, in a lot of spiritual talk and stuff, like Earth has its own heartbeat, and that heartbeat is called the Schumann resonance. So, part of that is these energy lines, which we call some of these things we call ley lines, we call spirit lines. I mean, they're basically these invisible paths of energy that connect sacred sites and these different megaliths and ancient monuments around the world, and they form sort of an energy grid, if you will. Because you've seen a picture of the globe with all these little connections all over it, right? That's kind of the idea. And those lines that connect each node. So a node would be like Stonehenge or Washington, D.C. And those are nodes. We have nodes.
So that's the intersection. That would be like the intersection.
Yeah, it would be like an intersection where energy kind of flows into. And they call them X points as well. We have those in our bodies, in our cells. Every cell, every universe is connected like that. If you think about the sun is connected to Earth the same way. Sun is a big ball of energy that's shooting these things called Birkeland currents off the sun straight into Earth. So if you think about it from the sense of like a plasma ball that you would get from like Spencer's or something like that, one of those purple balls with the tendrils flying around. Well, if you'll notice, when you cut that on, it's a bunch of purple tendrils of lightning kind of flying around in there. And then when you put your finger to it, your finger acts as a node of energy, and then that line shoots to it. And then, to me, that's kind of the best way to sort of describe it, is that each one of these megalithic sites or whatever are these where our fingers are touching, and all the energy is kind of going to it at one point. So the 33rd parallel is not the only thing that's going on. There's a lot of other energy lines around the world. The Chinese call them dragon energy or ley lines. There's a million different names for them, but they're all over the place. It's not just the 33rd parallel. The 33rd parallel is unique because it's in this warm region of Earth that goes all the way around. When you think about when the sun goes around the Earth, or the Earth goes around the sun, whatever it is, it's the warmest region. And what happens in this warmest region is you're going to get a lot of paranormal activity. This is why on the 33rd parallel, you're going to find like Roswell, New Mexico, Phoenix, Arizona, which is where the Phoenix lights happen. I'm sorry, I'm coughing so much, buddy.
No, you're good, man.
Excuse me. You're going to find all these major spots. I could go on and on. I mean, there's a lot of them. And I have a link to it you can put a link to it on my my website if you want, with all of the list of it on the 33rd parallel episode. And I've talked about it extensively on other shows as well, so there's a lot of information about it. But essentially what happens on this line of energy is when the sun shoots these currents from the sun to Earth, they hit Earth and it creates an electromagnetic pulse. And that pulse creates a pulse of energy, electrical energy, that comes out of the Earth. And that energy comes out in the form or through crevices, volcanoes, streams, things like that. So anytime there's a lot of paranormal activity, you're going to find running water. You're going to find caverns nearby or creeks or things like that. You're going to see everything I'm talking about, where all this heavy paranormal activity is. There's always going to be underground water sources or volcanic, like Bermuda Triangle, for example, is on the 33rd parallel, and it's on a extinct volcano. That's what it's a volcanic seamount. It's an extinct volcano, but energy still flows out of it, magnetic energy, electromagnetic energy. So when these pulses hit the Earth around this warm time of the day, right, where when the sun's out right now, it's dispersing all this plasma, all this ether that's around us. It's kind of dispersing it back into this soup-like state of ions, essentially. When the sun goes down, they quickly form together this plasma-like state, this ether. And so that's where these demons and this other stuff exists. They exist in this like plasma-like state all the time. It's hard to imagine like a spiritual world. We're thinking like this battle going on in the spiritual world around us, and we can't see it. Well, we can't see it because it's it's dispersed. These things live. I know I'm kind of going all over the place, but these things kind of live amongst us. They know us. They're in here right now, listening to everything I'm saying, because they're dispersed into when the light's out, when God's light, when God's sun, the sun is out, it disperses these things back into that plasma state. When it goes away, they quickly form up again. And when they form up, they have to find an area that has electromagnetic energy so they can hit that magnetic field and morph into and come into our reality, essentially. So all of these hot spots where the Birkeland currents are shooting, or the sun is shooting the Birkeland currents down to Earth, and it hits and creates that electric current. It's called a telluric current. It comes out of the Earth and kind of spins around, and it kind of creates this like little vortex of energy. That vortex of energy is fleeting. It's flying all over the place. It can't be really bundled into one area, except when you put stones together. The stones will help encircle that energy. And that's where a lot of these stones come from, like Stonehenge and the pyramids and all this stuff. What they're designed to do is sort of encircle and trap that energy that's coming out of the Earth, that magnetic vortex that's coming out of the Earth.
And so this is like a portal type thing, like these stone structures, like a portal.
Yeah. And And the 33rd parallel is just another area where this happens at. I mean, they're happening all over the world, obviously, when the sun's out. But the key point is when the sun goes away, at that moment of dusk and dawn, when the sun's coming in and when the sun's going away, these things quickly form together. That's their only time to quickly form together. They form into what's called complex plasmas, and then they hit these magnetic fields and they come into existence. That's why they all come out at night. That's why they're all coming out at dusk and dawn, right? So their job or their goal is to stay in this reality. They want to stay in this reality. So they've got underground bases, they got underground submergible bases as well. Because if you think about it, they're hiding from the light. You don't see these things during the day because when they come into our existence, they form into a ball of an orb, like a Merkaba ball or a ball of energy, a ball of light, and then they go hide. Basically, they're working to find some way to stay in this reality. So they create these metal. They have these metal casings around them that they can come out during the day. That metal casing is a metal casing around that spirit ball, that energy ball, that complex plasma that they merged into. And so the 33rd parallel is just one, again, that's just one of those areas where a heavy amount of telluric currents is occurring in that hot region. So I don't think there's any significance to the number 33 necessarily, but there is a lot of the only spiritual significance I think there is to 33. Yes, Christ died when he was 33, right? He did 33 miracles, I believe, in the Bible. There's 33 vertebrae. I mean, there's a lot of connections you can make with the number 33. The biggest one that I think, though, is that the angels fell to earth. The fallen angels fell to earth at Mount Hermon. Mount Hermon's on the 33rd parallel as well. And by the way, the 33rd parallel is just a 33rd degree line of latitude north of the equator. So we're talking about one little region of Earth, literally one line that connects all these sacred sites, all these, the bombs at Nagasaki and Hiroshima were dropped on the 33rd parallel. Every major event you can think of, Kennedy's assassination, everything is usually on the 33rd parallel.
That's so crazy, man.
Yeah, well, because there's harmonics of Earth. There's a book by a guy named Bruce Cathy. He wrote a book called Harmonic 33. There's harmonics of Earth, and so it's an energy of Earth, and there's an energy of the sun. And when they line up, you can do some major damage. Like that's when these atomic bombs are dropped. And so if they're dropping atomic bombs when the harmonics of Earth and the harmonics of the sun is lined up, they're trying to drop them on areas that have heavier than normal amounts of electromagnetic energy, like telluric currents, and that creates the big boom. Roswell, New Mexico, by the way, was the home of the 509th Bombardment Group that dropped the bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so when they're dropping bombs at Alamogordo and all these White Sands proving grounds and all this stuff, that's all 33rd parallel. So what I'm saying is, like, in order to have a mass effect for a nuclear bomb, the harmonics of the sun have to line up with the harmonics of Earth. Then also the telluric currents are spinning up in these areas as well. So it creates this heavier, it's like perfect ball of energy, right? Mm-hmm. Nuclear bombs drop, the boom gets bigger, right? It goes bigger. Like we were talking about how, I'm near Florence, South Carolina. There's a incident that happened March 11th in 1958 in Mars Bluff, South Carolina, which a lot of people don't know about, which was where a bomb accidentally dropped on somebody's house right here in South Carolina. I don't think it was on accident. I think it was on purpose. I think they're trying to blow up an energy grid that these things are traversing, that these demons are using. Because that energy grid that I was just mentioning with the ley lines, it serves a purpose for us, but it also serves a purpose for these entities as well. These entities use it to basically traverse like a subway system.
Right.
And I think you're saying that we were blowing these things up.
So, okay. So you said we were blowing this up because these entities use this. So that means the good, I guess the quote unquote, the good side dropped this bomb.
Yeah. That's what I think used to be going on.
Damn. So they were prepared to kill all kinds of people to like blow this thing up. Yes,
I think so. I think that's what they've been doing. And so, there's a lot of evidence that shows that there is it's a good and bad that's in our government. I think that there are people who worship these entities, right? Because these entities are fallen angels. They fell on Mount Hermon on the 33rd parallel, and it was a third of angels. So I think that these people are worshiping these entities, and they do so in the name of 33. So every time, for example, like Russia and Ukraine, they want Ukraine to become the 33rd member of NATO. Like that gives you an example. So like there's
that's so wild, man.
right. So what they're doing is they're like they're showing the negative entities, hey, I created this war and created all this havoc and killing and destruction for you. That's their way of showing that. Every war in the Middle East that we've been a part of, Iraq, Baghdad, Iraq's situated right on the 33 north and 33 west. It's
While you're on that
literally
topic, I hate to interrupt, but I was going to ask you this earlier. Jerusalem, where is that? Is that the 33rd? I think that's where Jesus was born.
It's like the 32nd, which is, whenever I talk about the 33rd parallel, it isn't an exact, it's not exactly on the 33rd. We think of it in those numbers, 32, 33, 34, things like that. But really, it's a region of Earth, the warmest region of Earth where this is happening at. It's not really happening a lot in the cold regions. It's not really happening a lot, in the north or the south of, the Arctic and the Antarctic. It's happening in this warm region of Earth. So whenever I talk about the 33rd parallel, I mean, if you rope in that region, would include like the pyramids, and that region would include Peru, where they have all these megalithic structures and all this other stuff. So, Christ was born and was crucified on the 32nd/33rd. I mean, that whole region, like Calvary, they don't really know. Like, there's Calvary means Alamogara. Not Alamogara. It means in Aramaic, it means place of the skulls, Skull Mountain. So there's a place that they think that happened at, and it's all near the 33rd parallel. The Temple Mount is on the 30. It's right up to the 33rd border, the border of the 33rd parallel. So all of this stuff, man. Every major war that we've started over the last 30 years, 40 years, whatever, has been on the 33rd parallel. And so that was another way, in my opinion, that they're like, hey, we did this for you. We started this war. We killed millions of people in your name, in the name of the 33rd, the fallen angels. So that's why every time you see Hillary Clinton or one of them, they're like, oh, Hillary Clinton with 33,000 emails. And we were mentioning what happened in 2020. Well, at the beginning of 2020, dude, this is, I swear, 100% true. Because I remember thinking, like, why is everything was 33? There's Sean Hibbler did a great documentary called Fluvid-19, where he talks about that exact same thing. And I noticed it while it was happening in real time. It started on March 11th, which is 3/11. By the way, March 11th is when the bomb was dropped on Florence, right?
Bro, that's
just mentioned, right? So 33, 3/11, right? So if you look at numbers, there is some numerology to this stuff for sure. But with that event, so it started March 11th, and every single newspaper, it was like 33 confirmed cases in South Carolina, 33 confirmed cases in Florida, 33 confirmed. It was literally every state that was saying that. 33,000 deaths, 330,000 deaths. Like, it was literally over and over. They were repeating that same exact number. Every single newspaper. And I had to screenshot it. And I had a screen, and I told this on Tinfoil Hat. I had a whole folder with all these screenshots, and all of it disappeared from my computer.
I remember you talking about that.
It was crazy. I mean,
but wasn't it too wasn't the first patient in the U.S. in South Carolina, like the first COVID patient?
I don't know.
The first case or whatever.
I don't really know. I don't remember that. But again, they just were making up numbers, is kind of what I'm saying. And I think that they were doing that to worship these fallen angels, because I think that these fallen angels, in 1947, when Roswell happened, when the crashes happened, it was like July 7th, 1947, or something along those lines, right? 3 weeks later, the National Security Act was signed by Truman, who was the 33rd president, on the Sacred Cow, which is what we call Air Force One now. So there's a lot of he was a 33rd degree Mason, and so was FDR. They were both 33rd degree Masons. So like, but he signed the National Security Act, or I'm sorry, was it National? I don't National Security Act of 1947. Let me look it up real quick.
Dude, I'm nervous as hell right now because I'm 32 years old.
So the National Security Act of 1947, and basically, yeah, what they created, what happened? They created the CIA, the FBI, all this other stuff, right? And then what else happened after 1947? All of a sudden, we started going to the moon and all these other big technologies and stuff. Well, what happened, I think, was they blew up the grid line. These things spaceships and all the shit crashed, and they retrieved the bodies, and they had an entity that was still alive. And I think they made a deal with this thing to give us, if they get science and technology and medicines and all this stuff, then we have to, not me, but these people who are worshiping these fallen angels have to provide blood sacrifices to them. They're helping them create these hybrid beings to where they can come into our existence. So they're giving them blood sacrifices. They're allowing them to take people, essentially, and take their blood. And so they're it's funny, man, because like I know this all sounds like really far-fetched, but if you look at like emails from Hillary Clinton, for example, with the WikiLeaks emails, right? Julian Assange was put in jail for a reason, y'all. He was put in jail because he exposed all of this stuff that I'm talking about. They were talking about non-human intelligences in these emails. John Podesta was talking about it. And Hillary Clinton, in one email called Honduras maybe, or something like along those lines. You can look it up on WikiLeaks. I think it's called Honduras maybe. At the end of that, she talks about sacrificing a chicken to Moloch. And so like they are worshiping these fallen angels, man. They're worshiping these entities. And so I think that people don't really know or understand that that's going on, but that is very obvious to people who are waking up, that is exactly what's going on. And it sounds incredible. It sounds far-fetched. If I told my wife this, who, she just believes, she's super smart, super intelligent, she's super sweet, and she's kind and caring, but she does just believe like, oh, well, that's just what they say, and then I'll just believe that until I see otherwise, right? It's like,
yeah.
But I think that there are people working with these fallen angels they're getting science and technology and metals and all this other stuff in exchange for blood sacrifice. And I think it's been going on since 1947. And that's,
so, all right. So you mentioned there's good and bad in the government on both sides of this thing. You mentioned Ukraine sort of being the 33rd. So the first question would be, does that mean in your eyes that Russia is on the bad side? Because if they want Ukraine to be the 33rd, that would be the first question. The second question, does this explain all the craziness that's going on in the mountains? Like people hear is it Appalachian Mountains? Appalachian?
I don't know how to say it. Yeah.
I don't know how to say it either. One of the two, the one in the Carolinas, the mountains up there, dude, it's absolutely crazy. Like the stories people talk about up there,
right?
Like the stuff they see and stuff. And I guess that would be right there on the 33rd, like right there in that area.
Well, you and I know local stories. There's the story of the Bishopville lizard man, right? I mean, that's right down the road from us. So like there's stuff like that that's happened in our own backyard, and all of it is 100%. Now, I don't know if I believe the lizard man story, because there's a lot of people who are from the area. They're like, I don't believe that. There's a reason why. I've heard stories, local stories. Anytime something becomes a national story, by the way, like when I was a kid, there was an event that happened in my town and everybody knew it was a hoax, but it gained national attention. The president came out and visited the town and all that stuff, and we just kind of went with it. But everybody knew it was a hoax, right? It's like, so I think that might have happened with Bishopville. But yeah, man, I mean, the mountains are the oldest in the world. I mean, they've existed longer than anything, those mountains specifically. So I'm sure they have a lot of secrets in there, especially with, again, if there's cracks and crevices and streams and all that stuff, you're going to get some crazy activity that's going on there.
So do you think, because a lot of people say, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, the people who were affected by this was absolutely a real thing, but people are saying it was man-made. The hurricane that hit the mountains, it was like very unlikely to have that kind of storm in that area. A lot of people are saying that they were, you mentioned like dropping this bomb on this area to destroy sort of those negative, entities. A lot of people thought the same thing with that hurricane. They were trying to destroy like people were saying underground tunnels that's used for trafficking. People were saying negative entities, whatever, in that area. And I mean, it's hard to think like if there is a good force, like a good side of this here on Earth, like they're letting that happen to destroy these people. But at the same time, what kind of chaos and mayhem would those entities cause if they stayed on, here? So I don't know. But I mean, Anyway, people like, because people say if you look at the path of the storm, And there was a flight pattern of a plane that was like in that area, and he was like circling around the storm, which if it wasn't man-made, it was manipulated to hit that area, specifically that area. And then people will talk about too, so like that's the I don't want to say good because people died, people lost their house, but like that's the, you know, I guess the positive side of the quote unquote war. But then also too, people talk about all the lithium. I think there's lithium there or something that needs to be mined, and they were just trying to, the bad force was trying to like get them out. I don't know. There's different theories, but I mean, yeah, it's fascinating that, like, if that's the case. This episode is brought to you by Excel Coaching Academy. Hey guys, I'm really excited to let you know that I started a mindset coaching business. So what I want to do with this business is I want to help entrepreneurs, business owners, salespeople, leaders, and fitness enthusiasts or athletes develop the right mindset to increase revenue, improve business or performance, and overcome the challenges needed to become the best version of themselves. You can get more information about this by emailing info@excelcoaching.academy.
Well, right down the road from where I live, they're creating a lithium battery plant, and the fires that have happened in Myrtle Beach, the fires that have happened in Maui, and the fires that happened in LA. Well, all three of those cities had plans before the fires to become smart cities, and so these smart cities need lithium battery. Where's the biggest stores of lithium in the world? It's in the Asheville area. So of course they're trying to take over these areas, and that's what I think that was for. I think that they can control weather, and they do steer hurricanes into particular regions that they won't, and it will cause chaos and destruction and all that stuff. But you were mentioning something a while ago. I can't remember what it was.
I asked you if you thought Russia was bad because of the 33rd, making Ukraine the 33rd.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I mean, what I will say is, like, you were talking about the good and evil in the government, right? I really do think that there are probably two different bands of people that are doing certain things, because at my house where I grew up, I found this video online one time, and it was a video of a UFO hovering over this field. And it turned out that video was from the dirt road I grew up on, and that it was hovering over a field that was right beside my mom and dad's house. And it really was like, what in the world? I was like, I had no clue. And I asked my dad about it. He goes, oh yeah, man, because my dad would, drink beer at the back of his truck at night and just kind of hang out and look up at the stars. And he said, I see stuff like that in the sky all the time. Weird things, weird lights in the sky. And he said that the guy that was at the head of the road would go out every single night with night vision goggles, and he'd film these UFOs basically coming in every single night. They were doing something. And every single night, like clockwork, military jets would fly in and chase them off. And so that's where I get that idea from, that they're probably, dude, I mean, think about how many times we have helicopters flying around in the middle of the night, like there's Marine Ospreys that are flying over Florence all the time. And I'm like, there's no Marine bases around here. Why is there an Osprey, flying over right now? It just doesn't make any sense. And most of the service members who fly helicopters and things like that, I got a friend named Jonathan that from the town I grew up in. He died in a helicopter crash. It was an alleged training mission at night. Most deaths in the military come from training missions at night. And so something is happening at night. There's some battles being fought at night, I think, with these entities. And so again, I do think that there are good people who are fighting these things off, and they probably don't want us to know that, right? Yeah. But then they're also, unfortunately, right now, the people who are in charge of the world are the ones who are making those sacrifices to Moloch and all this other stuff. I mean, it's pretty clear that they're doing that. You can see that at Bohemian Grove and all this other stuff that's going on. I mean, in the way they talk about pizza, and there's a whole thing with Pizzagate and all that stuff. But they talk about stuff in coded words and messages, and there's a reason for that too. I mean, I was in the Air Force, so I know. They have like different pseudonyms and stuff they use, and they have different nicknames for certain things to prevent FOIA requests. I believe that, yeah, FOIA, Freedom of Information Act requests so like if you were trying to get information on Barack Obama, you would be like, I want to see all the emails from Barack Obama at whitehouse.com, right? Or whitehouse.gov. And so you would do a FOIA request on that. Well, Obama wasn't using no Barry Barack Obama at whitehouse.gov. He was using Barry something, whatever his name is, at gmail.com. So we wouldn't search for that, because if we're doing a search, and that's what happened with Hillary Clinton with her servers. She had her own server for that very specific reason, to avoid FOIA requests. So she could have a whole email system that nobody knew about. So when she was sending emails from her personal server under different pseudonyms and stuff like that, and she was sending it to emails to government agencies, nobody knew who it was. It would just be like Sharon at gmail.com or something like that, And so they have all these pseudonyms, and that's how they play these games and get away from, because again, it's that karmic retribution that we started the show off with, right? It's that they have to let us know what they're kind of doing. But they also hide it, if that makes any sense. So they tell us in plain sight what they're doing almost, but they keep it from the general public, because again, they just have to show it. They show it in movies, they show it in everything they do. They show it in emails, like I said. But when you look up an email like Honduras maybe that was talking about sacrificing a chicken to Moloch, there's some emails in there that you're like, who is that person? And that's where that comes from, that they're hiding that their true identities. And I knew the general I used to work with, he had a pseudonym that he would use when he went to hotels and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I mean, these people do it all the time to avoid FOIA requests, but that's how we don't know what's going on. But they're still doing it, man. They're in charge of the world right now, unfortunately. I mean, pretty clear. But the good thing is I think that we're winning. We're the light is winning. And they can't stop the light. And so they're flailing right now, dude. I mean, they're running out of resources. Nobody believes anything that's written anymore. I mean, there are some people, I guess. My mom called me one day and she was like, did you see what happened? And I go, do you believe it? Do you really believe it? And she was like, I don't know. And then she was all worked up, and I said, stop listening to it. That's how they get you, man. That's really how they get you. I swear, you could do a Google search right now that says asteroid the size of blank and just hit search, and you will see asteroid the size of Texas, asteroid the size of a bus, asteroid the size of the Statue of Liberty. Over and over, they're just trying to keep us in a state of fear all the time, dude. And they're just manipulating our energy. They're harnessing it through obelisks and things like that in DC. And then when they write laws when it's heavy precipitation, rain, snow, things like that. You ever notice how they pass laws at 10 o'clock at night or 2 o'clock in the day or whatever? They're doing that to correspond to times when there's heavy precipitation, when there's lightning and things like that, because lightning hits that obelisk, it charges the ground like an electromagnetic pulse. And when they write these laws, they're like amplifying their voice. They're trying to amplify that spell when they cast those spells. So I know I'm kind of going all over the place, dude.
No, that's actually
up with this.
No, that's actually a really good point, man. I don't know. I don't know. I hope that I definitely see people waking up, and I hope that the good side is sort of winning this. My only concern is if it's true evil and they see that they're going to lose, they'll just take out the whole system. You know what I mean? They'll just eliminate everybody and everything. That's the way. I mean, they're going to. You don't think they can?
No, I don't think they can, because our free will is what drives everything. It's what creates the next moment and the next reality. So they can't.
You don't think they would just have some like massive explosion and just eliminate the entire global population and just be done with it? If there were some sort of beings, energetic or reptilian or whatever, that saw they were going to lose, humanity to a benevolent force, you don't think they would just eradicate the planet and just be like, well,
they need us, dude. They need us. They need bodies for their disembodied entities to attach to. They need us to continue creating, because they can't create. So even if they blew up the world and inhabited the world on their own, what are they? They're just going to be disembodied entities flying around with, they can't experience. They won't experience the life that we have, the warmth that we experience. I mean, think about it. Like I said, they're freezing cold all the time or burning up hot on both sides of the electromagnetic spectrum, and we're riding this perfect wave of like, frequency, right? We're in this perfect wave of energy. They want to come into that. It's like, I talked about it a little bit on Tinfoil Hat and the confessionals, where I'm very cautious of like churches that get the Holy Spirit. Like, I don't think that's the same Holy Spirit that, we talk about in the Bible. So when people get the Holy Spirit at these Pentecostal type churches, and you're from the South, you might have seen or maybe even been to a couple. I've been to a few of them because I had friends and ex-girlfriends and stuff and when these people hold up their hand, they catch the Holy Spirit. I'm not, if you're religious like that, I'm not bashing you as a Pentecostal holiness person or anything like that. But what I'm saying is, I'm cautious of what these people are letting into their body, because when they when they hold their hand out, I've done this before. I went to one of these churches at a revival. I held my hand up, and the preacher is speaking in tongues, which is really weird. You should know what the preacher's saying to you, right? He's speaking in tongues, which are a vibration. And as he's speaking in this vibration, he's telling us to hold up our hands and let the Holy Spirit go through you and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, so you're holding up your hand. Me and my buddy, we're like 15 years old. We're holding up our hand, and all of a sudden my body starts to shake, and I was like, whoa, me and him at the same time. We both were weirded out because we never experienced that. So I'd been to a lot of these churches. I've seen 6-year-olds speaking in tongues, old men, they walked in on canes doing backflips and things like that. And yeah, when they get the Holy Spirit. And it started kind of shaking my body, and we both were like, what in the world? And we went and sat down, and we were like, what was that? And we didn't let it take over us, right? But I've been to so many of those churches. I've seen how it works. I mean, the preacher sort of gears everybody up for, there's the music kind of gets everybody in the mood, and then he starts speaking in tongues, and all these vibrations are making people, vibrate in a certain way. And then they consent to whatever it is coming into their body. And when that energy comes into their body, it looks painful. It looks like they're flailing around, they're sweating. It would be the equivalent of what looks like a possession to me. Like I've seen my ex-girlfriend, her mom got the Holy Spirit while I was there at her church with her. And we went to pick her up off the ground, and I looked into her eyes, and I'm telling you, man, that was not, whatever that was not love and light, right? It was like she was flailing and sweating and screaming, and you could see like she wasn't in that body. Something else was piloting that body. And so my point is like, even when they come into our possess us, what do they look like? They look like they're all like, it's like you think about Men in Black when that alien takes over that guy's body, and he's kind of like walking all around like weirdly. That's kind of what happens when these things come into our bodies. They don't know how to operate our bodies, right? Because we have this unique frequency and this unique vibration. Think about people in Kensington, in the Kensington area of Philadelphia. I mean, Philadelphia. You've seen these people on drugs. They call it trank drugs, and they're like standing up, and they're like slouched over and things like that. That's what that is, man. These demons have inhabited their bodies, and they don't know how to operate them. And so I think they need us. I don't think they're going to blow us up, because I think they need us. They need us to continue creating realities and helping them come into because remember, we're the ones who created the stone circles that trap that energy that help them come into that portal. So,
I don't know. That makes sense. I guess the way I was looking at it was, if there's like a, physical beings here, like whether it's reptilians that live inside the earth, or if it's aliens that come here and visit to check on us, or whatever it is. I guess that's the only way it would make sense, if they already do have that physical body. I'm gonna let you get out of here, man. I know I'm keeping you over to time. I wish I had time to get into the religion thing with you, because I do believe in God, but I always tell people too, like, there is, so if the Bible is like a holy scripture, which I believe it is, it's probably very likely that something has been taken out of that Bible. Like, they're not going to let us have that information. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have the full story in it. Like, there's things that's missing out of there.
Yeah,
and talk about that karmic. Yeah, and people say that the Bible is manipulated and is false, and it was written to sort of manipulate us. I kind of see where people are coming from with that, but going back to the karmic retribution, I think they have to offer us that scripture, that holy scripture, to know, like, so it sort of satisfies that karmic retribution. But they take those things out. Like, there's a book of I think there's a book of Mary, I'm pretty sure, that was taken out. A book of Enoch. I don't know if that's a series of books.
Enoch, Jasher. There's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. And so, like, what was in those things that if we read that, we would know really about ourselves? You know what I mean? It's like, I think they're giving us, when it comes to the Bible, basically what I'm trying to say is, I think they're giving us the partial truth, which I guess satisfies that retribution aspect of it on their side. But I think it's very clear those things missing.
Extra biblical text out there, is because, just like you said, They're like, it's out there. You just have to go find it.
Right.
They're not going to give it to you. You have to go work hard to get it and search for it and stuff like that.
But I know you feel this, like being in the South and being in these religious places. There's a lot of guilt in there, man. Like if you question anything or if you go, read something else, it's like it's like there's guilt implicit in that, and it's like,
dude, one thing I
to,
say, man, all the time is like, we have a direct relationship to God because of Christ. Christ is that bridge, between us and God. And that's all we need. That's all you need to know. I mean, the Bible is got some great, it is Holy Scripture. And we always have to we're walking around a landmine here with what we say, but you can't say it any other way. It doesn't matter. Dude, I talk so much about how Christ is, I'm a follower of Christ. I love God, all this stuff. I have a lot of talk about scripture on my show and stuff like that. I have different guests. People still get upset at, for example, the latest episode I did with Ed Mabry, he talks a lot about the little season of Satan. A lot of people think we're in the little season right now, including me. But I had Ed on and Ed was like, no, we're not in the little season. I got a lot of hate mail from that because people believe what they want to believe.
Right.
They're gonna see things from their own personal perspective. But all I can say is that look around you when you go outside. Ignore the world around you and just focus, and ignore everybody else and just focus on you and your family, and you have a direct relationship.
Hey man, I can't hear you. Are you still there?
I got muted. Okay. I'm sorry. I mean, where did I cut off at?
You said go outside. You have a direct relationship. I think you said with God.
Well, that's what I was talking about with, sorry, I hit the mute button on accident, but what I was talking about with the lady next door, when I was talking to her, my direct relationship with God proved that it was when that deer came out, that proved my direct relationship with God. And the Holy Spirit speaks to me. And you mentioned synchronicities and angel numbers and stuff like that. That's what that is. That's the Holy Spirit guiding you in life and pointing and telling you, yeah, you're doing what you need to be doing. You're on the right path. You understand, you're getting it. And when you recognize that God is around you all the time, he's within you, he's flowing through you. He is that Holy Spirit that's flowing, not the Holy Spirit that people, possesses people, but the Holy Spirit that flows through all of life. It's the ether that flows through all of us, right? It's what connects all of us. And, when you recognize that, I'm telling you, man, it's like God is like, he gets so excited and he starts like giving you all these like, yes, you got it. You're getting it, man. And it's like, I with every synchronicity, for example, me and this dude, I'll give you a quick example. I know you got to go, man, but this dude came in and put some gutters up on my house. He talks all about Jesus all the time, which is awesome. He came up to my house. Hey man, you know about Jesus? And as he's doing the gutters, and I'm like, yeah, of course. And we were having a great conversation about religion and all this stuff. And I noticed the number he had on his ring finger. He had a tattoo that says 222. And I said, oh, you know what angel numbers are? And he goes, yeah, you know too. And I said, yeah. I said, at the time I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know to call it the Holy Spirit. But I was saying the angel numbers. I was like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's God, maybe it's guardian angels. I don't really know. Now I'm pretty convinced that that's the Holy Spirit. So as I was talking to him, we had this great conversation. And then the rest of the day, he and I were getting angel numbers everywhere. I mean, it was like everywhere, dude. License plates, the clocks, everything, every ticket, receipt, everything. We were just texting back and forth. He's like, that's so wild, man, that, we did that. And it was like, God was excited that we were talking about that. And God was excited that I was noticing. And that's happened to me before whenever I'm listening to the radio. I was just letting the music just kind of like flow through me. It was like a flow state I can't even describe. And it was like a Chevelle song. It was a rock song. And as I'm listening to it, I'm driving to Myrtle Beach. And you know how when you get into Myrtle Beach, the Conway area, stuff like that, there's like billboards everywhere. And as I'm getting into, I mean, I swear, man, the lyrics of the song was every billboard that was popping up beside me. It was as if the billboards were like coming to life around me.
Right.
I mean, the song describes like an octopus coming from the ocean and kind of pulling someone down. And I looked up and there was a big octopus billboard, you know what I mean? And then the next billboard was this and the next billboard. And it was amazing. And when you recognize that, God is like, yes, more of that, more, do that, keep doing that. You're figuring it out. You're getting it. And I think that he wants to have that relationship with us for sure. And we get
Yeah.
rewarded when we start noticing that. So I think a lot of different things are designed to take us out of that, to take us away from that. I mean, that's how easy you can interact when you just have that love and gratitude. Walk out in the sun, take your shirt off, take your shoes off, interact, ground, interact with the sun, light, God. Look around you, the butterflies will start flying to you. All of a sudden, the dragonflies, everything will start just flying around you, because it's like you recognizing that God is here and the kingdom of heaven is within. And you don't have to look. That's what Christ said. You don't have to look here nor there. The kingdom of heaven is within. So,
dude, that's probably, I know, John 3:16, that God sent his son to die for, that should be this. But I think my favorite Bible verse is that the kingdom of heaven is within you. Like that is just something that's so profound to me. You know what I mean? But yeah, dude, we could keep going. I know I got to go. You got to go. So what do you have? I know you got a pretty big podcast. I don't know if you want to shout it out, if you have any kind of links you want to share or anything.
Yeah. First of all, man, thank you for letting me just talk. And I know I've interrupted you a few times, and I'm sorry.
No,
I get excited when I get on other podcasts because I get an opportunity to just talk. When I'm on my own show, I have to be a host like you are right now. You're just kind of like asking questions. You really want to be a part of the conversation too. I know, because I get beat up all the time. They're like, you talk too much, and I'm just asking questions. I'm trying to be a part of the conversation sometimes. But if you want to hear some of, I don't think it's a very good podcast, but if you want to listen to it, it's you can find me at theawakenpodcast.com. And I talk all about all of this stuff, everything from paranormal to spirituality, conspiracy, to energy, vibrations, all this stuff. I try to go in depth with everything. I just did a series, started a series called Ancient America with my friend Ry Voss from Codex of Curiosities. I'm going to try to release that today. So it's a little bit, and what that means is like everybody's kind of talking about ancient Egypt. Was the Grand Canyon ancient Egypt? And so I did a whole episode on that, he and I, and so that'll be coming out soon. But yeah, so I have a bunch of different topics I talk about, man. I try not to stay in like one pocket of thing, but it usually leads to the talk of God and love and kingdom of heaven within and all that other stuff. But yeah, if you guys want to listen, you can find me at theawakenpodcast.com.
I mean, you can't help it, man, because once you go down this rabbit hole, it's like there's so many different things that open up. Like, this is not one of those things you're going to go into and talk about like one thing and then just stay on that one topic, because there's everything. Like, at some level, to some degree, everything's connected when you go down these rabbit holes. But no, I think you did a good job laying that out here. I think it was definitely like we covered a lot of different topics. And some of this stuff might be a little bit more advanced for people, but at the least they can hear it and then go research it for themselves, whether that's your podcast or whatever.
Yeah, dude. Thank you again, man. It is advanced, some of this conversation, right? But I'm an idiot. I'm a trailer trash idiot from redneck from St. Stephen, South Carolina. But what I'll say is that I think that helps me in trying to explain some of these things, right? Because I'm too stupid to know. I would probably get lost in technical terms of everything. So you're getting a filtered version through a dumb redneck, right? So you're going to get my take on it, right? I like you, I'm not very scientific or anything like that. I failed physics twice in high school, but here I am talking physics on your show and all this other stuff, and metaphysics and all this other stuff. So I'm just trying to talk to people and tell people how I see it and how I feel about it. And some things, if it resonates with you, then look it up. That's all I can. Just look up stuff for yourself, and you'll find that I'm pretty close. I might not be right, but I'm going to be pretty close. So.
Yeah. Also too, man, if you could just, I'm gonna have to, I got to clip this and put it in the beginning, because we started talking and everything was flowing well. And I didn't want to interrupt you and ask you this, but if you could just give us a brief introduction of yourself, and I'll sort of clip this out and put it I always do that for everybody, but then you and I just kind of hit the ground running. You know what I mean? And I don't want to, I didn't want to interrupt.
You want to start the show and then let me do an introduction and you can clip that in there, or do you want me to just talk?
Well, we'll just keep it casual like this. We don't have to like script it or anything. We just like, if you could, okay. I guess basically, what I'll probably do actually is leave this part of this in this video and just copy this to the first. That way people can get, because I mean, I know that you know this, but those first, couple seconds right there,
It's important.
I think are really important. So
Mm-hmm.
if you just want to say a little bit about who you are, I guess we'll preface it and then I'll leave it here too.
Sure.
Just kind of explain who you are.
Okay. Oh, you may do it now.
just like a self introduction, just
All
like
right,
you would if we were just starting this thing out. And I'll clip it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. You guys, my name is Brad Lail. I'm the host of the Awaken podcast. You can find me at theawakenpodcast.com. I have links to my Spotify and Apple, and I try to do some YouTube. I try to do some Rumble, but to be honest with you, I feel like I'm shadow banned a little bit, so I don't put a lot of effort there. I do better on audio. I make a little bit more money on audio. So I've been putting a lot of my focus and my energy into audio on Spotify and Apple. So if you want to listen to the show, if you like what you hear today and you want to listen to the show, please do me a favor and hit the follow button on Apple and Spotify. And also take 5 seconds to give me a 5-star review. I'd really appreciate that. Those reviews really go a long way. They help us kind of skirt the algorithm a little bit. And they also help us continue booking some really good guests. So give me a review, give Cody a review of his show. I mean, that's kind of our currency in the podcast world. But if you guys want to find me online, you can find me at the Awaken podcast. That's where everything's at.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I gotta get better. I think you're the first one I've never really given an introduction to. But I mean, because like what usually, I've had some situations where I'll be talking to somebody and I'll be like, wait, before we get too far in, let's introduce yourself. But I don't know, man. I didn't want to stop the flow of the conversation,
That's
and
fine,
it was just so much things was going on, so many things. But so one last question I ask everybody. This sort of sticks to the theme of wisdom. If you could share one of the most important lessons you've ever learned, it can be from something we talked about today or your career, your personal life. If you're comfortable sharing it, what do you think is one of the most important lessons you've ever learned?
Well, I used to work for an Army general, and we were in Afghanistan, and we went out to this combat outpost in the middle of the mountains. I mean, it was like 15 people that were there, and they were dusty and dirty, and they, were just tired. They hadn't had showers in many weeks. And we visited these troops, man. And on the door, when we got to this combat outpost, which is literally just a couple of barriers, T-barriers and sandbags and stuff that's on the top of a mountain. And they're kind of like the letting people know what's going, if something's coming in, if there's some, other enemy forces coming in, they're kind of like the first eyes on. So we're up there at the top of the mountain, man. And we walked to this little hut that these troops had made. And on the door, there was a sign that it said, in the absence of guidance and orders, figure out what they should have been and act accordingly. And the guy I work for loved that statement. And obviously I do too, because I still say it. But he took that statement and he incorporated it into the counterinsurgency manual for the United States military. And I think that that's an important lesson, right? It's like, in the absence of guidance and orders, don't wait around for somebody to tell you what to do. Make it happen. You can't just sit idle and expect things to just happen for you. You gotta, when you set your mind to something, you're tuning your antenna. And then when you walk towards something, like I said earlier, you are creating a wake of energy around you. And so if you want anything, don't wait around for people to tell you what to do. Don't wait around for people to, if you want to start a business, don't wait for somebody to go, well, here's a bunch of money, go start your business. I mean, you got to literally just go start somewhere. If you want a grass cutting business or a landscaping business, go buy you a push mower for $100, right? And then just start there. Push yards for a few months and then graduate to a ride mower, right? I mean, you got to start somewhere, and don't wait around for people to tell you what to do. Make things happen. That's the only way to live your life, in my opinion, is to make things happen and just go for it, man. I mean, we're here for a short amount of time. Right. You and I are going for it with this podcast stuff, right? We're going for it with business stuff. That's the mindset you have to have. Otherwise, you'll never, ever be happy. You're going to be stuck in your cubicle all the time. So in the absence of guidance and orders, figure out what they should have been and just act accordingly.
I like that, man. I really like that. And that makes me, it makes me feel better too about, I don't know if you remember when I reached out to you for the first time, I sent like a couple messages here and there. I was one message and one comment short of getting a harassment charge.
No, you're good.
Because I was trying to get your attention, man, because I really like your podcast. And I was like, hey, you'd be a good guest to have on, whatever. But I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, you ask for opportunities, the worst they can say is no. You know, you try to do something, and I know, you know, talking about failure and all that kind of stuff. We talk about a lot of that on this podcast too. But yeah, man, I think you're right. I don't think you're ever going to be fulfilled unless you do pursue that thing. Because here's the thing: we talk about God, we talk about spirituality, universe. You don't really have this desire for this thing for no reason at all. Like you don't. I mean, not everybody wants to start a business. Not everybody wants to be a nuclear engineer or whatever it is that you have whatever the goal is for yourself. Like this was given to you. I feel like, or you know, whatever it is. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good point. But man, it's been nice talking to you. This is I'm gonna have to maybe listen back to this episode, digest some stuff, and there's definitely some stuff here I got to look more into because some of the stuff I haven't heard of. But I'm gonna put Sam's link of the podcast you guys did in this podcast, and then as soon as I get this done, I'll shoot it over to you. If you can hang out for just a second, I'll explain to you about the upload. But sure. It was really good conversation with you today. Hey guys, I appreciate everybody tuning in today. If you enjoyed this podcast or enjoyed this episode, you can find more at Pure Wisdom Podcast. This is on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Rumble, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple and Google Podcasts. There you can subscribe, like, and share and interact with all of our content. Again, we appreciate it, and we will see you next time.